Welcome to the Holistic Psychiatry Podcast. I'm Courtney Brown Snyder, a physician and holistic adult and child psychiatrist. In this episode, I'll be talking about strengthening the right brain in a left brain world, and I would say in these very left brain times. Half of my work is spent honing in on details. For each person I evaluate and treat, I'm considering multiple symptoms, lab data, contributing factors, and treatment interventions. Left unchecked, the amount of detail hurts my brain, figuratively and literally. This type of work might be considered left brain and appealing to someone who is undermethylated, which I am. Though undermethylation is a biochemical difference, it has many traits consistent with those of the left hemisphere. Similarly, the diagnoses associated with undermethylation generally are the diagnoses associated with right hemisphere dysfunction and thus a relatively over-functioning left hemisphere. Undermethylation in other episodes, and we'll link to it in the description. The other half of my work, however, is involved in addressing how, from a spiritual perspective, or what I would say a right brain perspective, we can lower our stress response by learning how to let go and stop grasping for outcomes, how we can learn to feel at home in our body, how we can learn to connect with others, find peace in the world, find purpose and meaning in this life, live in the present, and feel part of something larger than ourselves. My writing and teaching about the intersection of neuroplasticity and spirituality is essentially about how we exercise those parts of the brain that relate to that inner work. Instead of honing in on details, the right brain is about pulling back and looking at the big picture of our lives and our humanity. This type of thinking feels good. Though both brain hemispheres are continuously working together in complex ways, there are attributes more strongly associated with each side. I'd like to oversimplify some of the work of Dr. McGilchrist, who is a psychiatrist, Dr. Ian McGilchrist, who wrote The Master and His Emissary, The Divided Brain and the Making of the Western World. So I'd like to break it down into the different aspects, including types of attention the left brain has, relationship to others, relationship to objects, relationships to the body, and relationship to the future. Then generally talk about the left brain perspective before talking about ways we can strengthen our right hemisphere. So attention of the left brain would be a narrow focus of attention as opposed to a broader, more flexible mode of attention. It's detail-oriented, prefers what it knows, it expects, as opposed to having an openness for whatever exists out there. It prefers single solutions the left brain already knows, as opposed to having flexibility of thought and an array of possible solutions. Has difficulty disengaging, and you might consider addictions, including addiction to the internet, as fitting with this. The left brain sees parts as opposed to the whole, and it takes things more literally as opposed to seeing things in a larger context. It doesn't grasp humor or metaphor relative to the right hemisphere. Relationship to others, it's more concerned with categorizing and types as opposed to concerns about uniqueness and individuality. So if we think about stereotyping and the current extremes of our political divide, that would be fitting with this. The left brain has social interactions that reflect less regard for the feelings, wishes, needs, and expectations of others. It is more superficial in terms of social engagement. The left brain has at times unchecked, meaningless, excessive speech. So again, this is if the left brain is over-functioning and the right hemisphere is under-functioning. If the left brain was personified again, the relationship to objects would be a need to collect and to have over-concern with getting and making. So think about our culture's love affair with consumption. There's more concern with man-made objects than with living individuals. There's an affinity for what is mechanical. Relationship to the body. Interestingly, the left brain sees the body as a sum of parts, not having a whole body image. It has excessive appetite for sex or food out of keeping with the person's nature. With regard to emotions and outlook, the left brain has more anger and is detached emotionally, as opposed to having happiness, sadness, or fearfulness. It has a more optimistic view of self and future, even if it's unwarranted. The left brain is competitive, and if it is depressed, it has an apathy as opposed to sadness. The left brain's relationship to the future. It fears uncertainty and lack of control. It needs certainty, and it needs to be right and correct. As you can see, the left brain sees the world quite differently than the right. The left brain would have its sights set on success, titles, money, objects, or anything else that feeds the eye. It would also have it obsessing over our health, excessively searching the internet for answers, and micromanaging everything we put in our body. It doesn't have the ability to see the big picture, which the right hemisphere does. Therefore, it has a hard time pulling back far enough to see how its way of thinking may be getting in the way. As Dr. McGilchrist's book points out, while our Western culture would have us believe that the left brain is the master, it is not. The left brain ideally is working for the right brain. As Einstein said, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift." Unquote. The right brain perspective. When we are viewing the world more from the right brain, we are in the moment, experiencing ourselves as part of something larger than ourselves, feeling connected to humanity, seeing the big picture again, and feeling in tune with our bodies, not hyper-focused on parts of our bodies or on our biochemistry. It is predominantly from the right brain that we create. We laugh, we cry, and we experience wonder, curiosity, and awe. A total right brain existence can be problematic as well. We do need a degree of structure to our lives and to our emotional states to avoid becoming overwhelmed and lost. Still, for most of us, bringing more of a right brain perspective can bring an ease to life that the left brain never will. 2, it can lower stress hormones and inflammation. If you're someone grasping for success as our culture defines it, keep in mind that the most successful, in all senses of the word, are going to be those who make decisions from the intuitive right brain and then use the left brain to essentially get the details of the job done. If you are just honing in and never pulling back to see the big picture, you'll miss a lot, not the least your life, your fleeting moment here on earth. It's arguable if the soul resides anywhere within us, it would be in the right hemisphere, while the ego would be in the left. Just as the left brain isn't bad, neither is the ego. It's just not an effective place from which to make decisions. It's a different experience and even outcome to do something to serve oneself, a project, a career, a relationship, than to do it with the purpose of serving others or a higher good. It's one thing to choose a path because it's impressive, and another to choose a path because it's aligned with who we uniquely are. If you're unsure if you're operating from the left or right brain, or from the soul or the ego, pay attention to how you feel, uptight, stressed, or open and trusting. So how might we find peace in the right hemisphere, especially in a world that's increasingly having us grasping, pushing, doing, fixing, getting, worrying, and clinging to outcomes from our left brain? I'll list some ideas, and if you have an opportunity to share your ideas, whether it's in the newsletter or if you're getting this elsewhere, please do add to this list. So 1, simplify. Practice letting go and growing clarity about what matters and what doesn't, especially if our left brain has collecting a lot of things and a lot of titles and a lot of ego supporting, though unsatisfying, relationships. So look for ways to simplify, to bring clarity, and to see the big picture. Gratitude lists moves our brain from beyond ruminating, getting, and planning to a place of being grateful for what is. Thirdly, letting go. We can recognize when we are clinging to outcomes and clinging to certainty. We can recognize this for what it is, an illusion of control. We can let go of worries as if they are balloons, or write them on a piece of paper and drop them into a box. Call it what you want, a God box or a I control nothing box. Number 4, we can practice mindfulness, being only in the moment, savoring every bite of a meal, sitting and listening to music while doing nothing else. When you go reflexively for that phone, that food, that purchase, ask yourself, who's driving, your left brain or your right brain? Number 5, notice others, not as separate but as part of the same humanity. Consider their experience, their struggle, and how they might feel. Look into their eyes, be with them, and resist interrupting or imposing your agenda, opinion, or need to fix them. Number 6, be embodied. Notice your breathing. Notice when you have a strong emotion what you experience in your body. Acknowledge any anger you may have towards your body. Be grateful for your body. Consider it a home for your mind, your heart, and your spirit. Sing, dance, stretch, move. These are all ways we can be embodied. Number 7, exercise. Not to look good, not to be better than, but to simply be in your body. Experience your wholeness and the wonder that you even exist. Number 8, be in nature. Savor the beauty. Be humbled by your small place in the natural order of things. Number 9, do something spontaneous. Just follow your gut and see where it takes you. Take a walk without a destination. Write in a journal, whatever pops into your head. Do anything you normally think of as frivolous. Number 10, shift your thoughts to how whatever you're about to do can serve a higher good. Perhaps even invite the universe to use you for a higher good. This is a great way to take pressure off, because it will move you from performing to feeling supported by unseen forces within and outside of you. Likely anything you think of that feels good is going to be relatively right brain. I don't mean any addictive type behaviors that lead us to checking out from our feelings, which would be left brain. Inner work in the right brain. For many of us, these types of exercises, or what I would call inner work, is done in isolation. It was for me until I read the following quote by Parker Palmer. First, we could lift up the value of inner work. That phrase should commonplace in families, schools, and religious institutions, at least helping us understand that inner work is as real as outer work and involves skills one can develop, skills like journaling, reflective reading, spiritual friendship, meditation, and prayer. We can teach our children something that their parents did not always know. If people skimp on their inner work, their outer work will suffer as well. Second, we could spread the word that inner work, though it is a deeply personal matter, is not necessarily a private matter. Inner work can be helped along in community. Indeed, doing inner work together is a vital counterpoint to doing it alone. Unquote. Exercising the right brain, but with others. Upon reading this quote by Parker Palmer, I felt called, a concept my left brain would find amusing. I felt called to start a discussion group called, at the time, Pragmatic Spirituality. And this was a group that met every other week over the course of 2 years. Each week, there was a topic of discussion that aligned with one of these right brain type of topics that allowed us to apply this type of thinking to our daily life and do that in community. And so as I think about how stressful these times have become for many of us, and even how isolating life has become in these modern times, I would like to offer a similar group. I will probably be calling it the Strengthening the Right Brain in a Left Brain World discussion group, again, to offer community and support around such topics that relate to strengthening the right brain. So if that's something you're interested in, please watch out for that. I'll be sharing that in the next week or so. And I would also encourage you to look for ways to create your own communities and ways to be with like-minded people who value much of what the right brain stands for and gives us. Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or questions, I always welcome that. If you would like to subscribe to these newsletters, you can do so on my website at CourtneySnyderMD.com. I look forward to connecting with you in the next episode. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.